In order for users to begin adding items to their shopping bag, we need to write a new view in the Bag app, make some changes to the context processor we created in the last video, make some changes to the product model, and also make some significant changes to the product detail template. We won't get to all of that in this video, but we will get the basic functionality started. Let's begin in the product detail template. Beneath the product description, I'm going to paste in the form to add the product to the shopping bag from the completed project and then work through it line by line. This form will use the post method since I want to send some information to the server about the product I want to add to the bag. Because it uses post, we need to use the CSRF token at the very top in order to take advantage of Django's cross-site request forgery protection. As a security precaution, without this token, Django won't allow you to submit the form. Beneath that, the structure is fairly simple, with the form being split into a single form row with two columns. The first column contains an input group containing the quantity input, which will be the user's method of selecting how many of this item they want to purchase. Don't worry about all the details of this form yet, as it'll start to make sense as we add more stuff to it in the upcoming videos. Just understand that it will allow us to submit a quantity and a specific product ID to add to the bag. The second column contains the submit button for the form and a keep shopping button which links back to the products page. Finally, there's a hidden input field here which uses the request.path attribute to submit a field named redirect URL, which will contain the current URL. By sending the current URL to the view we'll post this form to, we can redirect the user back to the same page once the product is added to their bag. You'll also notice that there's a new class here, button outline black, which is an inverted version of our custom black buttons. I'll add that CSS to base.css right now. That's all we should need to get started with adding a product to the bag, so let's see how it looks. With that complete, let's go write the view to handle this form. It's going to live in the Bag app in a view called Add to Bag. And it'll take in both the request and an item ID, which is the ID of the product the user would like to add to their bag. In this view, the first thing we need to do is get the quantity from the form. So I can do that here with request.post.getQuantity. And remember that we need to convert it to an integer since it'll come from the template as a string. We'll also want to get the redirect URL from the form so we know where to redirect once the process here is finished. Now for the missing piece of the puzzle. In modern versions of HTTP, every request-response cycle between the server and the client, in our case between the Django view on the server side and our form making the request on the client side, uses what's called a session to allow information to be stored until the client and server are done communicating. This is especially handy in a situation like an e-commerce store because it allows us to store the contents of the shopping bag in the HTTP session while the user browses the site and adds items to be purchased. By storing the shopping bag in the session, it will persist until the user closes their browser so that they can add something to the bag, then browse to a different part of the site, add something else, and so on without losing the contents of their bag. To implement this concept, I'm going to create a variable, bag, which accesses the request's session, trying to get this variable if it already exists, and initializing it to an empty dictionary if it doesn't. In this way, we first check to see if there's a bag variable in the session, and if not, we'll create one. Since I've now got a regular old Python object, a dictionary, I can just stuff the product into it along with the quantity. To do that, within the bag dictionary, I'll just create a key of the item's ID and set it equal to the quantity. If the item is already in the bag, in other words, if there's already a key in the bag dictionary matching this product ID, then I'll increment its quantity accordingly. Now I just need to put the bag variable into the session, which itself is just a Python dictionary. So to review, we'll submit the form to this view, including the product ID and the quantity. Once in the view, we'll get the bag variable if it exists in the session or create it if it doesn't. And finally, we'll add the item to the bag or update the quantity if it already exists, and then overwrite the variable in the session with the updated version. All that's left now is to import redirect, and then redirect the user back to the redirect URL. With the view complete for now, let's create a URL for it. It's going to have a URL containing the item ID. We'll return our add to bag view, and will be named add to bag. Now I need to go back to the form and add the action URL, submitting to the new URL and including the product ID the user is adding. In order to test this, let's print the shopping bag from the session in the add to bag view. Now, by adding a couple products to the bag and checking the console, you can see each product's ID and the quantity added. Let's commit our changes with git add dot, git commit -m added add to bag functionality, and git push. In the next video, we'll update our custom context processor to make the shopping bag's contents available across the entire site.